rings. Okay, haven't done one of these in a while. Tartaria energies, the modern energies of it. I'm not gonna go on any pictures or anything like that. I was never that big into that. But there is like early America. There's Tartarian energies, like our 1800s, 1700s, our architecture. Some of that is Tartarian connected to a certain level, at least by the vibration of it. Let's put it that way, by the energy of it. Of course, a lot of it is Masonic influence also. It's like a combination of both. Like the Tartarians do. I mean, it depends on the Tartarian energy. Um, they get some of their structures out there somehow without the Mason influence. It feels like. Uh, as for who that is or where that is unknown. Damn cat, driving me freaking nuts. Biting my feet. She'll kill me if I. That's all I can do there. Going nuts. Yeah, so the modern version of it's not making itself clear. A lot of it went into technology. As for where is not clear, but Tartarian energies, I feel like they're very strong in China. Like some of those empty cities in China, some of it's like some kind of Tartarian, maybe like a low frequency Tartarian energy. Singapore probably has more of the higher frequency Tartarian energy, maybe even South Korea to a certain level. And as for the US, it's kind of scattered about. It's not saying anything. And also MK Ultra Mind Farms, that kind of goes from what happened yesterday with the Zeta energy. So think of like I can't even show. I can't even show just for example. Let me look. So those that are not aware of it, yeah, lovely. Kind of like server farms of manipulation. Yeah, the Zetas, and they only take those. I mean, those that are weak get pulled into the mind control process. They can control, like a Britney Spears is a good example. There's probably others, but that's probably a good example there. And they really, they hit as hard as they can, and they have like a kind of like a computer system to do it that they designed. At least that's the vibe I got when I was zooming up to their reality. Of course, they couldn't plug me into it, but they were trying to. But just basically, why certain people, their eyes change, and it's like maybe there's somebody else there now, or some of the spiritual teachers, gurus, that there's not the person that you thought was there. Like they might have a name that's popular, but there's some other entity there now. So and some just give themselves away. Yeah, it's like a puppet basically. So is it really all that surprising though? No. It just this mind farm is like, of course, in the fourth dimension. But you see it here. I mean, it sounds crazy, but not really. Not as psychotic as the world is today. No, it doesn't sound like it's all that. They're not going to show it to you. I mean, they're going to manipulate a reality. They're not going to just say, "Oh, this is how we're doing it." It doesn't work that way. Especially if it's a multi-dimensional being, you kind of have to figure it out. And even then, you can't really have physical proof. It's just not how it works. Well, you can have astral proof, intuitive proof, physical proof. I guess you never know on that one. God, this cat, you got it. It really just like a predator. Just won't let. Just won't leave me alone. I'm trying to think here. Bite my feet. Need something to do. The other one's sleeping somewhere. I can't even find her. She's here somewhere. She pops up in the mornings, though. It's funny how they hide like that. So there's that, and also World War II, the World War II reset. Another thing is Berlin. It's obvious in modern times, no one's really thinking much about it, but Berlin was like wiped out during World War II, practically, majority of it. So it's like, yeah, it's a reset. Maybe there was something there that they didn't want us to see, whatever that might have been. It's not clear on that exactly, but obviously there's still a German influence in the pharmaceutical companies. Always the Nazi influence there to genetically modify us to something, some kind of creature. It's there. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So it's basically to tap into World War II timeline reset, and just whatever that has to say about it. Yeah, it's hidden in our modern world. Not that anybody cares, but there might be something there of purpose for some that need it. Whatever, you can't just I guess the quick way, you're going to go to high vibrations, going to go to the new earth. Have a nice day. It's like, that's the other spiritual. Jeez, that's like the fantasy land. Spiritual. That's what people want to hear. Not everybody, but some need to hear that for some. When you want to live in a wild, wild land, that's what you need, apparently. Gosh, God help us. Whoops. All right, so that's what I call them. We have press sessions. We have shop here. We have scheduler. Oh yeah, we have webinars, social network, behind the scenes, and archive. Maybe I'll have time for that tomorrow, maybe. As for the mind farm, it's kind of like this, kind of like a server farm. Maybe not exactly, but and it's just manipulating us. I mean, they're like a Zeta Gray. It could be other beings too, of course, but we'll just say the Zeta. I mean, something like in a fourth dimensional mind farm to control us, to do it. I mean, not everybody, but those that are weak, to put in part of a system, like a system profile, to create the timelines that we're in. So, just to give you another outlook. So it was like a fourth dimensional mind farm. Isn't that nice? So like when this guy's looking out, it's like it's all people attached to all this stuff. Jeez. That's a nightmare there. Welcome to the modern world. So not to say that hasn't been going on in the past. So it's too crazy, but is it that crazy? So all right, Fritzy's in the back. All right, she calmed down, hopefully. So All right. Blessings. All right, here we go. Greetings. We are Tartarian energies. Yes, some of you are connected to our frequency, our DNA. Some of you are Anunnaki Tartarian beings with powerful mind control, always for manifestation. Doesn't mean you're out controlling others. Sometimes you have a powerful mind, you don't know what to do with it. Some are scattered, of course. So some of you are remembering timelines where you can actually create a building with your mind. Now that's not just Anunnaki, that's just a Tartarian frequency. Of course, there's other beings connected to this. Tartarian DNA is basically the architecture frequency. Of course, yes, the Masonic energies too. They're both very similar. It's the Tartarian energies. Many are just seeing it from yes. There's other versions of Earth where Tartaria is very powerful at this time. Not to say it's perfect. It still has its issues, but basically just large buildings everywhere with a lot of symbolism, and it's like kind of like power stations, you can say. So in your modern America, yes, there's Tartarian energies. You can say they slowly hinted at who's here and didn't think anything of it. Yes, you have like a simple people, but then you have structures there are very advanced. and and usually they didn't say anything about it. Of course, people back then were a little bit more advanced even than they are now. Of course, you always have your common people, but some realized they can connect to the energies. So basically, society was ready for that type of architecture at that time. So it shows you, like a lot of these people here come from another planet, basically, to help with your society building. So meaning it's not all Tartarian energies. Like Tartaria is like it's a DNA that can access, but a lot of these beings are star beings, you can say. But still, of course, the human element is here, of course. So humanity is still part of this creation. It's just that you get energies from other realms also to build these structures. So this is still a human creation. It's not like just aliens showed up, built it, and then just left. It's building off of the human DNA. So it shows what humans are capable of and then forget. So it just shows how powerful humans are. And this is just a glimpse of what humanity can accomplish here. It just kind of like, so think about the Tartarian energy as like an activation of DNA within the human that's currently there. So everyone has it to a certain level. Not everyone's going to have to be an architect, but kind of gives you an idea of what is going on in the higher dimensions. So these like New York City, you can say is the city of the future. So it had to be what it is of the past, but and what it is today. It's one of the leaders of it. So a lot went into basically the structures, but also goes, it's for humans to, vibrate, their frequency to live. And, it's, buildings are kind of like clothes. You're in a structure and it's kind of like, you have the right vibe with it. It's like you go into a building that kind of suits your frequency. Look at it that way. And every building is, you can say, a power station, has its own frequency, of course. So, and then people in it give it energy. So it's a life force. So it's another way of looking at it. And it's just for some of you to start remembering these things. Of course, not the easiest. I mean, you're basically right now you're just uncovering a lot of this spiritually as it's done in the past, and most likely there'll be another building boom in the future when nobody's looking. Just that's just the way it works. Sometimes it's better just to build all this and nobody's paying much attention to it until after the builders have left, And then all of a sudden, it's like, how did this all happen? Were we just sleeping during this period? So, so right now they're just, you're still absorbing the energies of the past, still figuring yourselves out. But the Tartarian frequency, a lot of it is in Russia and those areas for protection purposes, because there are elites that do know they exist. Of course, they're all scattered around the world, but there is a center where there's a great deal of them, and some of them actually remember their past lives connected to the Tartarian frequencies. So yeah, you can say there's a bit of hell, some of them are not necessarily on the run, but there is a lookout for them because they can just access energies that are not normal here. Just access, just knowledge that so they usually keep themselves pretty low key overall. But Russia does have a large amount of it, so we'll just leave it at that. What's this? Brings you or a combination of different energies to the MK Ultra energy, the Zeta, Anunnaki, and more. Realize, of course, some of these spiritual groups do not want to connect to controversial beings for various different reasons. They don't want to scare anyone away. There's a lot of yes, obviously the friendlier beings that are channeling they're not always who they say they are, of course. But as for the server farm frequency, so like after some of the actually parents have actually seen some of their children go through that, like they're crying a lot, not always the case, but sometimes they're crying, and actually the parent would actually pull them away from that frequency. Usually, this is connected to my lab energies. There's like another world out there. And some of you have seen it. It might look like a horror movie because it is. It's about a human race that's different than yours, that's afraid of your evolution. Finding them is basically, they have a grip on it's basically keeping chaotic frequencies here. So you can't know yourselves. It's a test. I mean, it's up to humanity to, yes, allow more of these wild ideas, accusations to start. You know, even if it's a conspiracy theory, you're still exploring it. So it's shedding light on it. The more light on it, the better, the less likely it can influence others. It's kind of like mental drugs, you can say. You know about the drugs, so you keep yourself away from it, or your children, because these beings doing this do not care about anything but themselves. It's like they're designed to control societies. Yeah, it's kind of like parasites, but they are functioning beings. They have a desire to control worlds. You said it's connected to the Archon also. Just as you might have a desire to go to your work or be in a relationship or whatever it might be, there are beings that are dedicated to manipulating your world. And some of you have seen glimpses of it. It can get kind of a headache. It's not something you want to think about often because it can. It's like, what's the point? But it's good to know that it's there. Yeah, you think about it too much, or just go crazy. It's not necessarily in your realm. It does infiltrate a lot of your big cities, your news organizations, of course. Well, it's like we'll go to another, like holographic people. Yes, are they really there? You might be able. I mean, they're on your television, all that, but are they really there? Sometimes you just gotta wonder, right? I know realize that's kind of out there, but not really. I mean, you're not out there you're not actually seeing a news being put together because sometimes they are projections. Yeah, you're living kind of like in a holographic reality. It's just it's organic, but it's as you know, there's many layers to this. It's just your human is so physically programmed. It's not a lot. So a lot of this is going to be basically a conspiracy theory for a long time. Society is just not going to accept it. It's just now some that are conspiracy theorists hardcore that know there's psychedelics, know there is an elite system. Though some of them will realize that there's no surprise. I mean, they might not believe it themselves, but then again, if your elites believe it, most likely there's some truth to it somewhere. So, yeah, it's not exactly a friendly frequency, but it's good to know it exists. You can always unplug from it or scan your energy to make sure it's not hindering or trying to program your realm. But if it's not programming you, it can be programming a family member, a boss, or anything like that. So, let's Greetings to you. We are the World War II reset. Of course, there's many beings involved with this. Basically, a history of your Earth that has been technically forgotten, maybe not on a mass scale. But it's basically more to modernize your reality. Eventually, has to figure yourselves out on a more galactic level, on a spiritual level. Eventually, but there is like pages of a book that have to be forgotten for growth to happen. It's kind of like grass needs to be cut. To some frequencies, just some akashic realms need to be closed out for new ones to grow. Not to say you need war or anything like that, but at the time, it created your modern reality. Not to say you have to go through it again. No. Obviously, there's always someone tinkering and thinking you need to go through, but not necessarily. No. So basically, society can clean itself up, become more aware of what it is internally. So that's what you're here to do, which is hard. I mean, kind of like, of course, it's easier to destroy than to build, but you're basically building out the new way of looking at reality without being pulled into a brave new reality, a brave new world, a control structure, which is always lingering around. There's always someone trying to control your reality. Of course, there is a version of it currently now. So it's basically the beings, obviously, that are controlling your system are, yeah, you can say they are afraid of humanity breaking free, which many of you are, but still, there's still a loss. It's like the mind. It's basically breaking free of different type of mind controls, and obviously, those that are mining the mind are actually pretty popular, and some are picking up on it. It's like there are some even spiritual groups. Some are just actually building a minefield to keep you from evolving, even when they say that you are evolving, but really that you're not. Yes, it's on an individual basis. You clear out all the programming around, connect to yourself, and how do you see the reality? How do you see everything? And this is like going by what someone else tells you. So, because they're going by old energy, you heard old information being brought out constantly, of course. It just, it's just to keep you part of the minefield kind of lost. But some of you are breaking free of just, it's not easy, of course. Yes, it does get lonely. You're always going to hear that. But it's like it's like you're living in an underground city and now you found your way out. But you do it mentally. So it's like when you break out of the control, you're in a desert land all by yourself. but you have the willpower to continue on. So it's like, society is like living in yeah, a controlled system that's underground, and mentally many, well, slowly some of you are breaking free. So, and that will continue on, of course. So, blessings.